Millennials are those who are currently ages 20 to 36 years old. We're the fresh faces of the workplace. You probably know who we are, and you probably know how you feel about us, hence why I think I was asked here today. But exactly who are millennials compared to the past generations? How can you attract us? How can you retain us? And how can you create a workplace where every generation feels heard, needed, and relevant? But as you boomers begin to retire and these empty seats begin to open, guess who's replacing those empty seats? Millennials. In Latin America alone, there's 157 million millennials. 157 million. That is a huge number. So it is so important to see what this generation needs, why they are the way they are, and how you can best attract us and retain us to have the best workplace and continue to bring in more consumers. Now, like every generation before, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and millennials are no different. Studies show that millennials are tech-dependent, social media machines, enthusiastic, inclusive, and extremely self-sufficient. An article in Entrepreneur says that millennial managers are more likely to hire culturally competent teams that completely ignore race, gender, sexual orientation, and physical abilities. Millennials are great with technology and the use of social media. We are tech dependent. But we're not the first generation who is ahead of our time when it comes to technology. All you boomers out here, I bet you shocked your parents when you were a teenager and you treated coast-to-coast dialing like it was normal. And all you Gen Xers, I'm sure your parents and your grandparents were horrified back in the early 90s when you had 24/7 access to music videos being dubbed the MTV generation. Just like all the generations before us, we are technologically advanced. Now with Snapchat, Instagram, social media, instant news, always in arm's reach, we're very aware of what the world has to offer. When something happens in Seattle, Sweden, Sri Lanka, or Sao Paulo, the world can know within almost minutes. Comments can go viral in seconds. Positive ones and negative ones, unfortunately. And this generation, well, we like to comment. So it's important to be aware of your millennials' actions on social media and on the internet. However, our connectivity can also be used for your company's benefit. While researching millennials, I decided to make my own survey. Using the survey network SurveyMonkey, I created a 10-question survey for my peers to complete about being a millennial. I posted the survey on my Facebook page. Within 1 hour, 50 people had responded. Within 24 hours, 200 people had responded. I sent one click on one page, and I was able to get 200 responses from all over the United States and some internationally that quickly. Now imagine if you use your millennials' connectivity to reach a further network. Because of our connectivity, we can immediately get feedback from all over the world, rather than having to wait several days, weeks, or even months. This connectivity can be used for your company's benefit. So it's very important to have clearly stated cell phone policies. Another idea is to offer cell phone-friendly times. Like everyone before us, look at any teenager and you'll see that the more strict the rule is, the more you want to break it. So allowing an opportunity to have your cell phone out, an opportunity when you might not be in front of a consumer, you might not be in front of a customer, and the opportunity to plug in, even if it's for just a few minutes, will allow more respect to the cell phone policy. And finally, have cell phone-friendly conference rooms. This is a new idea. This is an idea that says, whenever you come into the conference room, we want to see you. We want to build that connection with you. The 2 minutes you're waiting before your meeting starts, that shouldn't be when you're scrolling through your phone, seeing what's going on Instagram. That should be when you're plugging in to your coworkers and truly building that connection. So Simon Sinek offered this quote. He said, there should be no cell phones in conference rooms. None. Zero. When sitting and waiting for a meeting to start, instead of using your phone with your head down, everyone should be focused on building relationships. One reason that we struggle with insecurity and we want things now is that we see that life could end at any moment. As youngsters, our childlike innocence of our world being safe, it tumbled along with the Twin Towers, thus eroding our sense of protection and security. School shootings, public shootings and bombings, all of this is happening all over the world, in our own backyards. Now, this shapes how we think and how we act. Now, this hasn't just shaped how my generation lives. This has shaped how all generations are living. I want you to think about air travel, for example. Now, we think nothing of going through security barefoot with a bag of 3-ounce liquid bottles. For our parents' generation, they feared the plane might crash. For my generation, we fear someone might crash the plane. These events have shaped us. Now, when these tragic events happen, we create hashtags. We try to make sense of what's going on. We try to feel less alone in this scary world and try to make sense out of tragedy. And it makes us realize that tomorrow isn't promised. We want to live our lives fully today because we realize that we don't always get tomorrow. And that is reflected in our work-life balance. Every generation before us has wanted to spend time with their family and friends and has wanted a good work-life balance, time to work and time to enjoy this life that they're working for. But this is the first generation that's demanding it. We want to live a full and passionate life. And to attract and retain your millennials, work-life balance is key. So, some ways I've seen organizations improve their work-life balance have been, number one, flexibility with family-related events. Now, this may seem weird, but I was working with an organization a few weeks ago, and they have 12 to 13-hour work days on the regular. So when I was talking to the different generations, each one of them said they had a strong work-life balance, and I thought that this was a little strange. How can you have a strong work-life balance when you're working 13 hours a day? But what this organization did was leadership decided they wanted their workers to feel like they had time for their family. So they were able to leave for an hour, maybe 2 hours in the workday to be present for family-related events, whether it was an award ceremony, a school play, or a school dance. These workers were able to make the big events and then go back to work and finish their job. This made them feel like they had more balance when it came to their life. Another option is the option to work from home. Now, as millennials, we love the option to work from home. Who works from home at least some of the time? Raise your hand. How nice is that? In my survey, 43% of millennials said they've been through such an event as divorce, abuse, medical issues, or loss of a loved one. That's almost half of my generation that's been forced to mature more quickly than their age suggests. So knowing this, maybe we can reach out to our fellow coworkers and understand that their actions and their character might be formed by something so much greater than what we see and hear at work. Also, for millennials, our age does not always determine our maturity level or our capabilities. Now, when it comes to creating this culture, it's important to be vocal. It's important to see everybody as an individual, and it's important to build a culture with meaning. Now, all you Gen Xers and Boomers, just as you for your first job had specific requirements, Millennials for our first job have specific requirements. They just look a little bit different. Over and over you read, Millennials want it all, like flexible hours. We want to live our lives fully. Meaningful work. We want to make a difference in the world. A relaxed and efficient workplace. We don't want the crazy pace our parents worked, often jeopardizing their health and their family. And we want really good benefits and perks. You all know it's true, but Gen Xers and baby boomers, you want all these things as well. I bet you're sick and tired of hearing all these things that millennials want that you never wanted. I mean, who wouldn't want all this stuff? But millennials just aren't afraid to ask. And evidently, somebody's listening. And when you ask for what you want, you are a happier employee. And happiness helps in productivity. The University of Warwick did a study showing that happiness led to a 12% spike in productivity, where unhappy workers proved 10% less productive. As leaders, you were challenged by this generation to appeal to our sense of meaning and purpose if you want to attract and retain us. So some things that millennials seek when looking for culture. We want a culture that's well-defined. Why is your organization doing what it's doing? What is making you go to work every day? What's your mission? What's your value? Tap back into the core of your organization and create a culture that is well-defined in it. And finally, we want meaning and purpose in our work. This is a generation who is passionate. We want to know that what we're working toward is meaningful. Millennials like when their coworkers pull them aside and take a minute or two out of their day to let them know that they're seen and they're being appreciated for the work that they're doing. Also, millennials like to receive affirmation from their coworkers or their direct boss. So I know what all you Gen Xers and Boomers are thinking. Why should I be affirmed for a job that I'm expected to do? Right? Fair point. Well played. But when you are affirmed for that job that you're expected to do, doesn't it make you enjoy that job a little bit more? And now my talk will end, and so we face the final curtain. Since we are now all friends, I'll get likes. Of that I'm certain. Millennials are here to stay. We'll travel each and every airway, posting pics on Instagram. We do it our way. New travels fast from afar with the new smartphone invention. The world shaped who we are. We see it through online connection. Affirmation would be bliss. Our ideas could be your heyday and more, much more than this. We do it our way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew,